It all began with a moment so ordinary that no one would have thought it could shatter a mother's heart. She was standing in the checkout line at a small grocery store, holding nothing more than a carton of milk and a loaf of bread, when a single sentence from a familiar face sent her world spinning. "Congratulations! You must be thrilled about the engagement," the woman said cheerfully. At first, Mara blinked, unsure she had heard correctly. Engagement? What engagement? Her son, Daniel, had never mentioned a word about this. And yet here she was, standing under the fluorescent lights of a grocery store, being congratulated for a life-changing event she didn't even know had happened. For a moment, she froze. Her hands tightened around the loaf of bread. Her breath caught, and her thoughts scattered like broken glass. I'm sorry, what do you mean?" she asked, forcing a smile. The other woman tilted her head in confusion, as if Mara were joking. "Oh, I just heard from my son. He said Daniel and his girlfriend Eliza got engaged during their trip. I assumed you already knew." The words struck Mara like a physical blow. She felt her cheeks flush with heat, her stomach twist in knots. She wanted to laugh, to shake her head, to correct this misunderstanding. But deep down, she knew it wasn't a mistake. If Daniel had told a childhood friend about such a huge milestone, then it must be true. And yet, he hadn't told her. Not a single word. Mara managed to nod politely, murmuring something about being very happy, while inside she was crumbling. The rest of the grocery store faded away. The sound of carts rolling, the chatter of other shoppers, even the beep of the cashier's scanner. All she could hear was her own racing heartbeat, and that single sentence echoing in her mind. Daniel is engaged. When she finally stepped out of the store, the cool Scottish air hit her face like a wake-up call. She pulled her phone from her bag with trembling hands and opened the family group chat. Surely she had missed something, some announcement hidden between vacation photos. But there was nothing. Only pictures of Daniel and Eliza smiling on a beach in Portugal, standing on cobblestone streets, holding glasses of wine at sunset. Beautiful moments, yes, but not a word about an engagement. Her chest tightened. How could her only son, the boy she had raised with so much love and sacrifice, keep something like this from her? She typed out a quick message. "Daniel, is it true? Are you and Eliza engaged?" Her fingers hesitated over the send button, but she pressed it anyway. Then she stared at the screen, waiting for those 3 little dots to appear. 1 minute passed, then 10, then 30. An hour slipped by, and still no reply. Mara's thoughts spiraled. Was he ignoring her? Was he too busy celebrating with Eliza's family to think of his own? Or worse, had he deliberately kept her in the dark? Her mind raced back to all the times she had seen him recently, only twice a year. Quick visits where he always seemed distracted, always rushing off. Sure, they spoke once a month on the phone, and their family chat was active. But suddenly those small connections felt hollow. Had she lost her son without even realizing it? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Mara sat in her car, phone clutched in her hand, fighting back tears. The humiliation of learning from a stranger about her son's engagement stung like salt in an open wound. But beneath the hurt was something even more painful. Fear. Fear that this wasn't just about a missed phone call or a forgotten announcement. Fear that it was proof of a distance growing between them, one that no mother ever wants to face. And so began a story that would test not only Mara's trust in her son, but also her own heart. Because sometimes the deepest cuts don't come from enemies or strangers. They come from the ones we love most. That night, Mara lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling while the silence of her home pressed in around her. Her husband was fast asleep beside her, unaware of the storm raging inside her heart. She clutched her phone, the screen lighting up every few minutes, only to reveal nothing. No message, no call, no explanation from Daniel. Finally, she whispered into the darkness, "Why, Daniel? Why wouldn't you tell me?" The next morning, her husband noticed the redness around her eyes. "What's wrong?" he asked gently over breakfast. Mara hesitated, embarrassed to admit the truth, but the words spilled out anyway. "I found out from someone else, at the grocery store, that Daniel's engaged. Can you believe that? Engaged. And he didn't say a word to us." Her husband frowned, stunned. "Engaged? Are you sure?" "Yes," she snapped, more sharply than she intended. Her voice cracked as she added, "She told me her son had already heard it from Daniel. Everyone seems to know, except us." The weight of it settled over the room. Their youngest daughter, Ellie, overheard the conversation from the hallway and walked in, her eyes wide. "Wait, Daniel's engaged? Why didn't he tell us?" Mara felt the sting of the question. It wasn't just her who felt left out. It was the whole family. Later that day, Mara scrolled through social media, though she already knew the truth. Daniel never posted much, and Eliza had never connected with any of them online. Still, she hoped, desperately, that maybe she'd stumble across a photo, a caption, anything to make her feel included. But there was nothing, just silence. Her phone buzzed once, and her heart leapt. But it was only a message from Ellie. "Mom, maybe he wanted to surprise us? Maybe he's waiting until Christmas?" Christmas? The word twisted like a knife, because Mara already knew Daniel wouldn't be home for Christmas. He had said weeks ago that he would spend it with Eliza's family this year, which meant months before she could even see him face to face. The thought was unbearable. That evening, Mara decided to text Daniel again. This time, her message was longer. "Daniel, I don't understand. I had to hear about your engagement from someone else. Why didn't you tell us? We're your family. We love you. Please, just talk to me." She hit send, her hands trembling. The minutes dragged on. Nothing. Her mind began to spin darker stories. Was Eliza the reason? Had she pushed Daniel away from them? Or was Daniel himself changing? Slowly slipping from the boy she once knew into a man she hardly recognized. The memory of his childhood flashed in her mind. His wide smiles when he ran across the playground. The nights he stayed up late asking endless questions about the world. The warmth of his little hand clutching hers as they crossed the street. How had that sweet little boy grown into someone who thought his mother wasn't worthy of knowing such a precious secret? Tears welled up again, blurring her vision. She whispered to herself, Maybe we're just not that important to him anymore." Her husband reached over, squeezing her hand gently. "Don't think like that. He loves you. Maybe he just wanted to wait or tell you in person." But Mara shook her head. "In person? He barely visits. Twice a year, if that. And we talk once a month, maybe. No, this feels different. This feels like he's shutting us out." The silence between them grew heavy, filled with unspoken fears. That night, Mara checked the family chat again. Daniel had sent a quick photo from a concert he was attending. He looked happy, laughing with Eliza, lights flashing behind them. But still, no mention of the engagement. Not even a hint. Her hands trembled with anger now, not sadness. It wasn't just that he hadn't told her. It was that he could send pictures of music, food, and sunsets, but not share the biggest moment of his life. And deep inside, Mara knew this wasn't just about a ring. This was about being left behind. The cracks in her relationship with her son were no longer invisible. They were opening wide, threatening to break the bond between mother and child forever. The following week felt endless for Mara. Every morning she woke up hoping for a message, a call, something from Daniel. And every night she went to bed with the same ache in her chest when there was nothing. Her other children tried to comfort her, but even they felt the sting of being left out. Ellie admitted one night, "Mom, it just feels like he doesn't care about us anymore." That sentence broke Mara's heart even more, because it wasn't just about her pain now, it was about the entire family. Finally, after days of silence, Mara made a decision. She would call him directly. Her hands shook as she dialed his number, her breath shallow as she listened to the ringing. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3, then voicemail. "Hi, it's Daniel. Leave a message." The robotic beep sliced through the air. Mara closed her eyes, holding back tears. "Daniel, it's Mom. Please, I just want to hear your voice. I need to know what's going on. Call me back." She hung up, her heart pounding. But deep down, she knew he wasn't going to call. Not yet. That night, she sat by the window, staring out into the dark streets of Aberdeen, replaying every memory she had with her son. His first day of school, his nervous smile at prom, the day he moved to London. All of it rushed through her mind, colliding with the painful truth that he was building a new life. And maybe she wasn't meant to be a part of it. And yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that something more was going on. That his silence wasn't just forgetfulness or distraction. It felt deliberate. Why? What was he hiding? As the tension thickened, Mara's story is far from over. And if you've been following along so far, if you can feel her pain, her confusion, her frustration, then do me a small favor. Tap that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because this story only gets deeper, darker, and more emotional from here, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Back to Mara. Days later, she finally received a short text from Daniel. Just one line. "Sorry, been busy. We'll talk soon." No mention of an engagement, no explanation, nothing. Mara stared at the message in disbelief. Weeks of waiting, and that was all he had to say? Her hands tightened around the phone, anger burning now where sadness had once been. Was this his way of avoiding her? Of brushing off his own mother like she was nothing more than an afterthought? She typed a reply, then erased it. Typed again, then deleted. Every word felt too small, too desperate. Finally, she put the phone down and whispered to herself, "If he won't tell me the truth, then maybe I'll have to find it myself." Her mind raced with possibilities, calling Eliza directly, reaching out to Daniel's old friends, even traveling to London unannounced. Desperation was pushing her into choices she never thought she'd consider. But one thing was certain. Mara was done waiting in silence. And as Christmas drew nearer, with Daniel planning to spend it with Eliza's family, Mara felt a fire building inside her. She would not let this distance destroy her family. Not without a fight. Because a mother's love, once pushed aside, can turn into something fierce, something unstoppable. Christmas lights glowed across the city, but in Mara's heart, there was no warmth. Everywhere she went, Families were shopping together, laughing, preparing for the holidays. But her own family felt incomplete. Daniel had confirmed once again. He would spend Christmas with Eliza's parents in London. That meant Mara wouldn't see him until January, maybe longer. The thought crushed her. Her husband tried to convince her to be patient. "He'll tell us when he's ready," he said gently. But Mara shook her head, her voice trembling. "Ready? He's already told other people, just not us. That's not about timing. That's about trust." That night, Mara sat at the kitchen table long after everyone else had gone to bed. The hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the room. She stared at her phone, scrolling back through months of messages, searching for signs she had missed. But then an idea struck her. Daniel's childhood friend, the same one whose mother had spilled the secret in the grocery store. Maybe he knew more. Maybe he could tell her what Daniel refused to. With shaking hands, Mara found his number and typed out a message. "Hi, it's Mara. I hope you're well. Can I ask you something about Daniel?" Her heart raced as she hit send. Minutes passed. Then her phone buzzed. "Of course." "What's going on?" he replied. Mara hesitated, then typed, "I heard from your mom that Daniel and Eliza are engaged. But he hasn't told us. Do you know anything about it?" The dots appeared on the screen. Her pulse quickened. Then the reply came. "Yeah, they got engaged in Portugal. I thought you knew. He told me before the trip that he was planning to propose. I'm sorry if I said something I shouldn't have." Mara's throat tightened. It was true. Every word. Her son had prepared for this moment, shared it with friends, but not with his own family. She wanted to scream, to cry, to throw the phone across the room. But instead, she whispered into the empty kitchen, "Why, Daniel? Why not us?" The days leading to Christmas dragged by painfully. Every time her phone buzzed, hope surged in her chest, only to crash when it wasn't him. He sent photos of Christmas markets, lights twinkling, Eliza smiling beside him. But still, no mention of a ring, no announcement, nothing. By Christmas Eve, Mara couldn't take it anymore. She sat on the couch, tears streaming down her face, when Ellie put a hand on her shoulder. "Mom, maybe we should just call him together. Put it on speaker. He can't ignore all of us." Her husband nodded. "Yes, tonight. Before the year ends, we need answers." Mara's hands trembled as she dialed Daniel's number once again. This time she placed it on speaker. The room was silent as the phone rang. Once, twice. Then, finally, he answered. "Hey, Mom," Daniel said casually, his voice light. Mara's heart leapt, then broke all at once. "Daniel, we need to talk. Why didn't you tell us about the engagement?" There was a pause. A long, heavy pause that made Mara's skin prickle. Finally, Daniel sighed. "I wanted to. I really did. But things are complicated." "Complicated?" Mara repeated, her voice trembling with anger. "You're engaged, Daniel. That's not something you hide from your family." Silence again. Then he whispered, "You wouldn't understand." Those words stabbed deeper than any knife. Mara's breath caught in her throat. Her husband reached for her hand, but she pulled it away, her voice rising now. "Wouldn't understand? Daniel, I am your mother. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to find out from someone else? Do you know how much that hurt me? Hurt all of us?" On the other end of the line, Daniel said nothing. Just the faint sound of Eliza's voice in the background, muffled but present. Mara's chest tightened. Was it Eliza? Was she the reason? Was Daniel slipping further away because of her? Before she could ask, Daniel muttered, "I have to go. We'll talk later." And just like that, the line went dead. Mara sat frozen, her family staring at her in shock. The silence that followed was unbearable. At last, Ellie whispered, "Mom, what do we do now?" Mara wiped her tears, her face hardening with resolve. "We don't wait anymore," she said firmly. "If he won't come to us, then I'll go to him." And with that, Mara made a decision that would change everything. She would go to London, uninvited, unannounced, and face her son directly. Because no matter what stood in the way, she needed the truth. The train from Aberdeen to London felt endless. Mara sat by the window, the landscape rushing past in a blur, her mind trapped in a storm of fear, anger, and hope. Every mile brought her closer to Daniel, and closer to answers she both craved and dreaded. When she finally arrived, the city lights of London burned bright against the night sky. She clutched her bag tightly, rehearsing what she would say. Her heart pounded with each step as she walked the familiar streets toward Daniel's apartment. And then she was there, standing at his door, her hand hovering over the buzzer. For a moment, she froze, tears threatening to spill. What if he refused to see her? What if this visit only pushed him further away? But she swallowed her fear and pressed the button. Moments later, the door opened. Daniel stood there, surprised, his eyes wide. "Mom? What are you doing here?" Mara's voice shook. "I had no choice, Daniel. You wouldn't talk to me. You wouldn't tell us the truth. I had to come." Behind him, Eliza appeared, her expression wary but not unkind. "Maybe you should come inside," she said softly. Mara stepped into the small flat, her chest tight as she looked around. Photos of Daniel and Eliza filled the walls. Smiles, travels, laughter. But none of them included Mara or the rest of the family. The silence was heavy until Mara finally spoke. "Why, Daniel? Why didn't you tell us? Do you have any idea how much this hurt me? How much it hurt all of us?" Daniel lowered his gaze, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was scared." "Scared?" Mara echoed, stunned. "Of what?" "We're your family. We love you." Daniel ran a hand through his hair, his frustration clear. "You don't understand, Mom. Things are different now. Eliza's family. They're so close, so involved. I didn't want to make comparisons, or disappoint you if we told you too soon. I thought maybe it would be easier to wait until I could say it in person." Mara's eyes filled with tears. "But you didn't tell us in person. You told your friends. Their parents knew before I did. Do you know what that feels like?" For the first time, Daniel's face crumbled with guilt. He reached out, placing a hand on hers. "I'm sorry, Mom. I wasn't trying to push you away. I just didn't think. I thought I had more time." Eliza stepped forward then, her voice calm. "Mrs. Grant, I hope you know we never meant to exclude you. Daniel was nervous about how to handle it, but we want you to be a part of this. Both of us do." The words cracked Mara's hardened shell. She looked at Eliza, really looked, and saw not an enemy, not a wedge between her and her son, but a young woman who truly loved him. Her tears finally fell and she whispered, "All I ever wanted was to share in his happiness." Daniel pulled her into a hug, his voice breaking. "You will, Mom. I promise. I'll do better. I don't want to lose you." In that moment, the weight lifted. The anger, the humiliation, the doubt. It didn't vanish completely, but it softened under the truth. Her son still loved her. He had made mistakes, yes, but he hadn't forgotten where he came from. As Mara left later that night, the London streets shimmering under Christmas lights, she felt lighter than she had in weeks. For the first time, she believed they could heal. And before we close this chapter, let me turn to you, the one listening right now. If this story touched you, if you've ever felt the ache of distance in your own family, then please tap that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring you more stories that stir the heart and spark conversation. Because in the end, here's the truth. Family bonds may bend, they may strain, but they are never meant to break. And sometimes, even in the darkest misunderstandings, love finds its way back home. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends.